Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Vampire Survivors just pushed a fresh patch, version 1.14.105/1.20, and while it's technically a hotfix, it quietly polishes a bunch of rough edges from the massive recent update. We're going to walk through what changed, why it matters for your runs, which builds benefit the most, and a few quick tests you can do the moment you boot up. Think of this as your friendly long-form catch-up so you can jump back in and feel the improvements right away. First, a little context so all of this lands. The game just delivered a chunky update that added online co-op and the Balatro crossover Ante-Chamber, alongside two new stages, Mozzarella and Westwoods, and new systems that shake up progression. That's a lot of moving parts. Networking, new content hooks, new items, new strings from multiple languages, and a bunch of edge cases with evolutions and stage behaviors. When you roll that large a change set into a game as systems heavy as this one, tiny seams can show. This patch is the needle and thread that tidies those seams so your next run is less, why did that happen? And more, okay, this is cooking. Let's start with the fix that musicians and gold hoarders will notice immediately. Dance of Gold now uses the correct loop. If you've ever built around gold gain, not just for flexing on death but for powering money-hungry passives, hearing the right audio loop matters. It's not just a vibe thing, it's feedback. With the loop corrected, the rhythm of your coin-fueled chaos lines up better with what's happening on screen, and those micro cues help you keep your momentum when you're juggling pickups, chests, and rerolls. It's a small bullet point on paper, but if you've spent any time juicing a greed-centric run, your ears will thank you. Speaking of audiovisual consistency, the patch cleans up text overflow on the online DLC title and adjusts a missing reference to the DLC selector pop-up. Why should you care about a pop-up reference? Because when content is split across base game and optional add-ons, the navigation layer is your map. If the signpost is busted, you miss detours, you misread unlocks, and you spend menu time hunting for the stuff you just earned. Fixing the text overflow also matters for accessibility. Readability means you can parse what you've unlocked at a glance instead of squinting and second-guessing whether you grabbed the right relic. Now, let's talk gameplay shaping adjustments. The team corrected the maximum area cap for Inferno weapons. Area scaling is one of those stats that can quietly supercharge a build. It changes how far your damage extends, how reliably you tag incoming waves, and how forgiving your positioning can be. If the cap isn't correct, you end up with builds that either feel underwhelming when they should shred, or overperform in ways that trivialize late waves. The correction brings Inferno tools back into the intended envelope, which means when you plan for an area stacked build, say pairing a high area weapon with passives that lighten your footprint, you get predictable, intended value instead of weird spikes or plateaus. Local co-op folks, there's a nice quality of life fix for you. The game no longer over-reduces weapon slot counts in couch sessions. If you've ever looked at your shared run and wondered why it felt like you plateaued earlier than expected, this was likely part of it. Weapon slot logic is foundational in runs that use complementary kits. One player goes crowd control, the other goes boss melt, someone handles pickups. So having that system misbehave puts a ceiling on your synergy. With slot counts behaving properly again, your living room metas come back into focus, and you can start theory crafting around slot breakpoints the way you used to. There's also an optimization pass for Magistone weapons. Performance tweaks aren't flashy, but they pay dividends when the minute 20 mark hits and the screen floods. If you've ever felt your frame pacing dip right when your evolved toys should be singing, the optimization should translate to steadier flow and more reliable hit registration. That feels good in the hands, and more importantly, it reduces the odds that a choppy moment robs you of a tight dodge or a clutch chest. On the unlocks and progression front, you'll see a fix to the TP Fake Trio unlock check. Unlock conditions are the carrot that keeps this game so addictive. Do the thing, get the thing, take it into the next run, do a bigger thing. When an unlock gate misfires, it breaks that dopamine chain and makes you second guess whether you misunderstood the requirement or the game missed your achievement. Getting that check corrected means time invested lines up with the rewards you're chasing. It's the sort of change you only notice because frustration disappears. You do the objective, the unlock pops, and you're off to the races. Localization got love too. English cleanups are in, and there are updates to Turkish and Japanese strings. When a game has this many items, arcanas, relics, and stage modifiers, the accuracy of text isn't cosmetic. Mislabel a passive and you steer players toward a build that doesn't do what they expect. Mistranslate a relic and you get incorrect mental models about how systems interact. These fixes make the game friendlier globally and help every player arrive at the same understanding of how their kit works, which is especially important in online runs where communication shortcuts rely on names and descriptions being solid. Another small but meaningful cleanup is the description for subcard plus an update to a referenced asset. When a description aligns with the reality of an item's behavior, you make better draft decisions in the moment. You know that feeling when the level up screen pauses the fight and you're cycling between three options, weighing evolutions, passives, duplicators, and you don't want to alt tab? Clear, corrected text saves your run. These are the quality of life shaves that add up if you're playing dozens of hours a month. Let's zoom back to the bigger picture for a second. The recent update introduced online co-op for up to 4 players, along with the Balatro collaboration, which means new characters, jokers, weapons, and the antechamber stage. If your group hasn't synced schedules yet, trust me up a session and just feel how the chaos scales with multiple players roaming freely. More bodies means more means more pickups, faster momentum, and great moments where one of you becomes a roaming blender while someone else sweeps. The patch we're covering here isn't adding new co-op features, but it smooths a few of the clunky bits around the menus and content presentation that surround that mode, which lowers the friction to get your squad in and locked. And for the content explorers, the 2 new stages continue to shine now that stability is improving. Westwoods leans into chance and cheeky risk-reward curves, while Mazzarella stresses route planning and map awareness. If you're the kind of player who loves to push for 30 minutes with a strategy in mind rather than just freestyling, the maze-like design in one of these stages is going to scratch that itch. And with the patch cleaning up a few strings and a DLC selector reference, it's just easier to get where you intended without second-guessing whether you're in the right playlist. All right, so what does this mean for your builds right now? Gold-centric builds feel cleaner because the audio loop fix restores a subtle timing aid. Area-stacked Inferno kits are back to being dependable within their intended cap. So if you were experimenting with area multipliers and felt something was off, circle back and try again, especially in late-game waves where radius interact with enemy density in non-obvious ways. Co-op comps that rely on hitting specific weapon slot thresholds should scale more predictably, which in turn makes it safer to assign roles like, you chase evolutions fast, I'll cover mobs with AoE, you handle elites. And for folks min-maxing unlocks, the corrected check removes a bit of anxiety from your to-do list. If you want a practical checklist when you log in next, here's what I try. Start a gold build and pay attention to the feel of Dance of Gold. Enjoy the loop doing what it's supposed to do. Set up a couch session and watch your weapon slots as you level, just to confirm the count behaves across the first 10 minutes. Test an Inferno-leaning kit with area-boosting passives to see how the envelope feels in the last 5 minutes of a stage when it gets real. Then hop into the menus and confirm your DLC bits are visible and referenced properly. No more text overflow, and the selector pop-up should be there when you need it. These micro-tests take just a few minutes, but will give you that nice confidence that the patch landed where it should. I also want to call out the importance of the language updates, because they're easy to overlook if you play in English, and everything already looked fine on your end. Games like this live and die by clarity. When the team invests in keeping multiple languages current and accurate, that's a signal that accessibility isn't an afterthought. If you have friends who play in Turkish or Japanese, tell them to peek at item descriptions and stage text again. They'll likely find that ambiguous phrasing they mentioned last week is now clear. That's a win not just for comprehension, but for the shared meta discussion across the community.